Greetings, race fans, and welcome to Sim Racers Group Formula 4 on SMB. JR Gregory here with you on the call. Beside me in the commentary booth, my partner, Kenan Miller, and tonight's producer, Mike Braun. Tonight's round 6 of SRG F4 action completes an Aussie trifecta as we move from Sandown to Winton and now to Phillip Island Circuit, located, not surprisingly, on Phillip Island in Victoria, Australia. This fantastic track is approaching its 100-year anniversary, racing having begun here in 1928. Phillip Island past host to a plethora of sports car racing, including Aussie supercars, if you can imagine those things out here. Currently a major motorcycle venue. Today's configuration was paved in 1978, 4.4 clicks or 2.7 miles and 12 turns. And Ken and we were chatting about this a little bit before coming on the air, and this track is awesome. I love this old school track. It's another one of those ones that would never be built today, but it is narrow, twisty, hilly, and far more difficult than it appears at first blush.
Yeah, thanks, JR. It's a very fast, winding track. It's a lot of high-speed corners. It's track's really mainly used throughout the year for a lot of high-speed motorcycles and bike days, and nice to see four wheels touch this track. It's really a great four-wheel track, and I think we're looking at a really good race today.
Yeah, I think so as well. A track pretty well suited to these F4 cars. We've seen some great racing in the previous Australian tracks here, and as practice winding down here about 3.5 minutes until qualifying, and once qualifying gets underway, we'll maybe hop on board with Poborgi here. So far putting down the hot laps, and alien class Kenan looking a little bit thin here. Only see 3 cars out currently. That's Poborgi, Mikovits, and Velasco, and we're missing notably Case and a couple other aliens from the pointy end of the field. So the top of the timing tower, aside from Poborgi, dominated by our intermediate 1 class with Corwin Snyder, Kocher, and Chris Wang, all hanging around right there, closely packed, about a half second separating all of those cars. But yeah, once we get rolling here, we'll hop on with Poborgi, Corwin, one of those fast drivers at the front, and Kenan will have a little track walk for you. And looking at that map, you know, it doesn't look that complicated, but there are a couple of very kind of diabolical areas, and one place in particular where your braking zone and turn in are kind of over a blind downhill, and I think we might see 1 or 2 loopers there, and a couple places where we might see some dive bombing occurring this evening as well.
Yeah, I think the toughest corner on the track is going to be that turn 10 downhill right-hander. You almost got to touch the brakes before you go down into the right, and if you hit it too late, you're going to lock it up, you're going to go wide. It's also where you see a lot of contact. People misjudge it, following each other. So we'll take a track lap right now with Jason Chanton, and it's a very high speed. You'll see the cars potentially in the graph. They'll get up to 148, maybe 150 miles an hour. Fully flat out turn 1 going into the first of 3 long hairpins. This being the longest of them all. You can see very minimal brakes, just a lot of gas, and you can see he's going to pull into the grass to avoid the floor of traffic there ahead. Another long, flat-out left-hander. A lot of people don't even consider this a corner. It's like a straightaway. And then we'll go into a series of double hairpins. Very hard on the brakes. Misses the apex and goes wide a little bit. You're going to want to hold it wide, or hold it tight onto that apex all the way through. That way you can keep the car right here into the second, a left-hander. You bring it right down. Hold it tight because it feels like forever waiting on the corner to back open up. And this is where we get ourselves set up to go into that dangerous turn 10. Quick, easy right. See, we're working our way up the hill. He's utilizing a little draft. It's going to help him carry a little more speed. As you can see, we're going up. We crest over the hill, and you'll see the brake marker there, the 50. That's about as late as you can go into that hard right. You see it dips over the curving. It's a great area to use curving. And then to complete the lap, you're just going to hold it as tight as you can. It should, in a Formula 4 car, be flat out all the way to the start-finish line. You will see drivers go wide when they're trying to do their hot lap, trying to get as much speed as they can to the front stretch. So that's going to be the lap around Phillip Island. It's very fast, very flowing. Not a lot of brake usage, but the couple times you do have to use it, you better be precise.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really excited to see how these cars are going to handle that turn 10. We had a pretty good look at it there as we were on that ride along. You saw the car in front of the camera car there, kind of locking them up, going down into turn 10. It is so tough. Do you lift before that crest? Do you start brushing the brakes to try to set the car before the car gets light over that crest going down into turn 10? And brutal downhill, hard braking and turn in there. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say there may be one or two kerfuffle type incidents there in turn 10 as practice winding down. Now we're going to get qualifying underway here in a moment. And if you haven't joined us before, remember this is open qualifying. It's not going to be solo qualifying. So in addition to trying to put down an optimal lap, these drivers are going to have to deal with traffic and mixed classes. So different groups of cars out here with very different pace. And let's take a quick look now at the championship standings. It is currently Majkovic from Case, from Pavorji, from Velasco, from Eggert, from Ope there in P6. And Majkovic with a pretty good 6-point lead up top there. And Case, a no-show again here, repeating last week. And there is your inner ones. It's Corwin from Lopez, from De Silva are the podium in your inner one. Next, we'll show you our inner two standings, the most populous of all of these classes. It's Bujak from Trantham, from Duval, from Cartines, from Conway is your top five. And there are the rest of those standings. And, okay, and Mike is telling me in my ear here that we're going to get 2 drops this season. So Case has not walked away from this season yet, but if he uses 2 of his drops by just not showing up, that kind of obviously takes a drop off the table that you might need if you have a bad race. So interesting to see Case choosing not to participate here, and pretty fun track. I'm with you, Ken. This place is an absolute riot. I've run a couple of Radical SR10 races here, and for the smaller cars, there's a lot of good dicing, and it's really about piling pressure on the car in front of you and waiting for a mistake. There are a couple of kind of dive bomby passing opportunities, but it's more just pressing on the car ahead and trying to drive right into their head.
Yeah, they're gonna have better luck being able to utilize the draft than forcing a mistake. Maybe you try to peek inside, but don't take it. See if you can push someone to push a little wide. The braking amounts just aren't enough here to really overbrake anybody getting into a corner. But even as you see, as they're going by us on the front stretch, it's just a massive snake going down into turn 1. The draft, I think here, it feels like we say it almost every week. I think the draft at this racetrack may be more important than any of the racetracks we've been to yet this season. So we'll have to see how that kind of plays out, and the way you can line up and get a couple people working together, they probably have a good chance of catching a car strung out on their own.
Yeah, too right, Ken. And that kind of emphasizes again the importance of turn 10. So if you're looking at the track map right now in the upper right of the screen, you see that number 93 car in the upper left of our track map heading into that turn 10. And as he rounds that and goes onto the power in turn 11, with this level of power in these cars, that is really the start of that front straightaway. You are running the car through the gears full throttle all the way down into turn 1. And yeah, I think the draft is going to be important. We could see some contested entries into turn 1, which can lead to some interesting happenings in turn 2. And so we'll have to see how that unfolds. And 3 minutes in, some time starting to come up here. We're not really close. We're seeing about, well, there's Chris Wang, and so he's getting down into close to what he was doing in practice around 92nd lap time. So it's Wang from Snyder right now. Diego Posada putting up a good lap. There goes Josh Corwin. He's going to throw up a 130.3. So tires are getting warmed up here. People are getting in a groove, and plenty of time left, Kenan, to make something happen here in open quality.
Yeah, and I think even just looking at the first car that came out of the pits to start all these qualification laps, car 93, Embriet Hyde, he was out there all on his own, ran a 140.612. And we see the top leaders who were right through that snake in the mid-pack must have had a good trap. They're all the way up in the 130.3s. I mean, you're looking at a total second difference to not line up a car behind you when you're putting on your qualifying hot lap right now.
qualifying continuing here, still waiting for Piborgi to show something here, and Velasco as well, sitting all the way down in P11. So Aliens no showing in a couple of ways, literally and figuratively here. Piborgi only 1500s back, but still the top of the timing tower so far, dominated by these inner one drivers. It's Corwin from Wang, from De Silva, from Snyder, 1 through 4, locking out the top part of the grid. Then you have Piborgi about 1500s off of P1, and then we get into the inner twos, Bujak, Posada, and Brashear with the pole, or with the podium here so far. And Jason Kocher there sitting in P10, and Velasco again all the way back in P11. And here comes some 129s, and here come the Aliens. They said, JR, you got to give us a second here to get our speed up. And there it is, Piborgi with 129.6. Mikovits just 2/10 behind him. So the Aliens starting to flex a little bit here and put down some heaters.
Yeah, that was actually an incredible lap by Piborgi and Mikowitz, both at the same time. I mean, they were lucky to be part of about a 4-car group there, and both of them got a good timing spacing. And that draft down the front straightaway is just where a massive amount of time is. I'm kind of surprised Piborgi was able to run 2/10 quicker than Mikowitz, but that's quite a good gap. I think you can see that made up here in the next 10 minutes of qualifying.
Yeah, and so much of this is kind of about good fortune. It's everybody has the right to get out here and put down the best lap that they can. And if you're a pro driver and run into some of these lower class drivers at the wrong time, it's going to mess up your lap. And on the same token, if you come onto that front straight perfectly timed to get a good toe, you can get a pretty good gap going, and that may have helped Piborgi along there with a pretty significant gap there of 2/10, and pretty spread out up front. It's 0.8 separating our top 8 cars, and beyond that, the number 9 car is about 1.2 seconds off the lead. So sometimes we see these times in these F4 cars packed together pretty tightly, and sometimes they're spread out a little bit. Last couple of weeks here in Australia, the pace has been pretty spread out, it seems like.
Yeah, there has been a pretty good spread out pace. I was just looking at the timing board, and really the whole group in practice was separated by 2.5 seconds. So it seems like it's a little bit tighter throughout the field than what it has been at some of the previous tracks we've been to. Haven't quite topped the best practice time in qualifying. We're still looking at needing about another 10th there for the Alien class. But I don't think lap traffic should play a real role. Obviously, we will have some crashes and cars fall behind in that way. But I don't think if you're up front, you're going to have to worry about that too much here.
So look now, here comes Mikovits, and we're going to jump down to that's Michael Hun now, as he makes his way through. You see him dragging that right front in that low speed corner, and we may see a couple of dives there. That's one of the opportunities to make something happen here. A pretty tight track, pretty high speed, which can present some problems for finding a place to get your nose in, but there are a couple of opportunities here, and it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds during the race. These sprint races, very, very short, so if you don't qualify where you want, you need to start making some aggressive moves early, or you're just going to be spending the whole time in traffic.
Yeah, really the 3 passing zones you have. If the draft works out, you could consider turn 1 there, but you're really looking at turns 4 or 5, the double hairpins, and that downhill right-hander. If you decide to really kind of push the limits of your car and maybe brake a little later, it's really one of the best opportunities for a hard braking zone to maybe undercut somebody and get by. Everywhere else, you're going to be really stuck in the line. You can't. A lot of these flowing corners, because they are very long and wide, they're very difficult to run side by side through them. So you'll see people giving up positions to get through those corners a little safer. But 4, 5, and 10, that's where I'm looking for a lot of the good action to be at today.
Yeah, I think you're right. We watch them. Watch a group of these F4 cars go through that sweeping turn 1, and not a lot of braking there. I wouldn't suspect. These cars not really high on power, but they definitely have mechanical grip, definitely have downforce, and they may just be doing a little bit of a lift there to get that car to rotate in through turn 1. So they are absolutely cooking, as Kenan said, pressing about $150, heading down there into turn 1 and getting everything they can out of these cars. As you see one of those cars. It looks like Trantham maybe making the maximum exit there. And this is one of those tracks. Whoa, and there's a little cloud as well. This is one of those tracks where the racing doesn't happen exclusively between the white lines. You see that exit there with the green material AstroTurf off to the left. That is not an off, so they're going to be using that part of the track on exit to get a good exit there. So again, mastering a track like this is learning the boundaries, and that's one of those spots.
And you don't see track limits isn't too much of an issue with this track. Thankfully, it's one of the few natural race courses we still have in the world today, and you don't see a lot of paved runoffs. It's a lot of beautiful greenery and sand, so a lot of the race officials kind of deem the sand and grass kind of takes care of itself when they go through that. So you'll see them push it as much as they can, but we shouldn't see too many penalties for off tracks and things of that nature today.
Yeah, and as we were talking about, this is a very popular moto track. So you see miles and miles of kitty litter out there. That is to collect motorcycles that are sliding off the track, less so than cars. About 4.5 minutes now. And look at Corwin. Corwin has pushed his way up ahead of Mikovits now. So up top of the timing tower here, it is Poborji from Corwin, from Mikovits, from Snyder, from De Silva, your top five. But Corwin splitting those two aliens up top, managing to squeak ahead of Mikovits, and still, though, about 0.15 of a second off of Poborji as qualifying session winding down now. About 4 minutes left. These cars are probably going to be able to get 2 or 3 more qualifying laps as the starting grid begins to settle in.
Yeah, I mean, look at Oladipo. He just turned a 132.2, so that'll make him 12th fastest on the day. Probably was hoping for a little better, but I think that's probably one of his better runs he's had so far this season. So looking forward to seeing what maybe he can put together with the extra speed and the opportunities he'll have at this racetrack.
Yeah, definitely be keeping an eye on him. He's going to be facing a target-rich environment. Although I guess it's possible he just didn't put the practice time in, and you know, everybody gets busy, and that will happen. You got to be pretty dedicated to get consistent speed, switching tracks week after week, and Oladipo maybe not having the time to make that happen this week. So 3 minutes left, still up top with Poborji from Corwin, from Mikovits, and I'm sure Mikovits would like to get back up in the front row. Has a very small gap to close down, about 700ths, and a couple more chances, but time running out here if he wants to change his position.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to have the time or the position to be able to maybe get it in. I think that Joshua Corwin will be happy with the second place, getting the start on the front row of the grid, but I'm sure he's wondering where that 10th and a half went, and I think he'll be happy to be able to start and get that second place run. If I recall right, on this track when they start, second place does get the right lane, which is beneficial as they go flat out into turn 1 for the first time.
Oh, and there's a little dive, and that's not the first time we're going to see that. And that's that tough downhill right-hander, low speed, where the car gets really light over that crest right when you're deciding when to start hitting the brakes, and you saw the consequences there. And that is not the first time we're going to see an F4 car go off in a cloud of smoke in turn 10. Absolutely diabolical design, and very interesting design, kind of typical of some of these old school Australian. Almost kind of reminds me of a UK track. That kind of off camber hidden corner kind of reminds me of Bolton Park or Brands in a way.
Yeah, it really does. It's a very classical type corner. It's not one you see on many modern racetracks, and it certainly tests the drivers because of that. The lack of familiarity and the understanding of how to handle those corners you don't find like you once used to.
We are getting down to the wire here. Only about just over a minute remaining, and looks like most of our drivers still out. So some of these guys still fancy trying to move up in the rankings, as we're taking a look at Kocher right here, currently sitting in P10. That was kind of last among the inner one drivers with an inner two driver ahead of him. I'm sure he would like to improve that. But again, this open qualifying giveth, open qualifying taketh away. Sometimes you'll have a good run, get lucky, and sometimes that. Off into the grass, might as well stop for a picnic. That lap is over, and probably not time to click off another one. And if you haven't joined us before, once the timer runs down, if you're out on the track, you get to complete that lap. So qualifying likely to go a little over the 15-minute timer that you see on your screen there. And also, if you're just joining us for the first time, notably damage off here, and like to touch on that in every broadcast, because it kind of opens up your options, I guess. These F4 cars can be pretty fragile out there if you are used to driving them in the public servers. Little wheel banging can break these cars and send them onto the flatbed into the pits, and damage is off here because this is a learning league. It's about getting seat time and moving up into the Sim Racers Group F3 league. So they want to get as much track time as possible, not spend time getting repairs. So you'll see these cars fixing themselves throughout this race. And again, I think it's a pretty good idea to just help these guys learn. They don't need to learn about towing back to the pits. They need seat time.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. It maximizes every bit of that. You have your collisions. Thankfully, the sporting code and all of the league, they're all expected to race like gentlemen. Like, these cars are fragile and meant to break in an instant. But when things happen, they're able to kind of get themselves straight and get back going and not lose the time getting towed back to the pits, waiting on repairs. They've got 20 minutes. It's a very short race. It's very much a sprint. Anybody involved in an incident is going to certainly face the consequences of the lost time. There certainly won't be enough to make it back up. So it's a very well way that they run this league. I really enjoy it.
Taking a look at Navas here, currently sitting in P12. That is his last qualifying lap. And look at him jump up. Nice. And we just happened to get that on camera. Navas improves his qualifying position by 3 there as the last couple of cars coming across. Be interesting to see if Velasco is getting something done here. See if we can get his sector times up as he's coming. Oh no, he pitted. All right, well, he gave up on that lap, so we're settling down into our final grid here, unless Navas doesn't have any more time. So that is going to conclude qualifying. So we'll have your starting grid for you here in a moment. I'll fly through that as well as I can, and in the time that we have, and the race will start here momentarily. And give me 1 second. Yeah, we're waiting on iRacing to throw up those official results, but I can tell you with some confidence it's going to be Poborji and Corwin up front, with Mikovits there in P3. So that was pretty stable throughout that qualifying session. Poborji getting off that heater at some point, might have had a tow, might have had some good luck, but no one able to get really close to him. And all right, well, it looks like there we go. There is our qualifying results. So it's going to be Poborji next to Corwin in P1. Mikovits will be next to Snyder in P2, and Corwin is pole for inner one, of course. Then De Silva and Wang in 5 and 6. Kocher and Velasco in 7 and 8. Navas, you saw him put in that heater at the end. That will put him on pole for inner 2 and in P9 overall next to Bujak. Then Oladipo next to Cook. Van Wagner next to Trantham. Posada next to Brashear in row 8. Vase next to Swanbeck in 17 and 18. And as we scroll on down, it's going to be Hagen next to Glasser, Meyer next to Suresh Kumar, Hun next to Duvall, Samudio next to Neil Day, Hyde next to Mike Braun. Is that our Mike Braun? No time. Okay. So Mike must have been throwing down some laps out here, and so the bottom of participants there probably not taking the grid. That's Braun, Leslie, Mirchik, and Sim Racers Group 10. I imagine some kind of testing going on there at the Sim Racers Group facility in San Jose as we wait for the green flag here. And Yeah, we got a couple of people holding up the show here. Bujak not on the grid yet. Looks like he is the driver holding it up, and iRacing is going to force the start here in about 10 seconds if he doesn't show up, and there he is. So we're waiting now for the lights, and we should be underway here shortly. And of course, no traction control on these cars, so we're going to have a mad dash with cold tires down to turn 1. Hold your breath, folks, because here we go. And Poborji getting off well. He's going to have the inside line into turn 1. It's Poborji from Corwin from Mikovits. Looks like De Silva has jumped up past Snyder, then Wang, Kocher, Blasco, Navas, and Bujak, and looking pretty clean there through turn 1. It can be some havoc there as the drivers go through that high-speed first corner side by side. We're still side by side through turn 2, and a very clean start here as we get underway at Phillip Island.
Yeah, they're all got through the first couple of corners very nice and clean. We'll see as they go into the first hard braking spot of the racetrack and in the hard right. They're still side by side, about 4 or 5 deep. As you see, there is a little mistaking that does take out second place Mikowicz, it looks like, as we do have quite a traffic jam in the back, and we'll have to go back to the replay to be able to sort all that one out. Too many cars involved, but as you can see, those are the testing corners we spent the pre-race talking about. That's where you're going to find a lot of the action and where the testing of the brakes will be.
Yeah, that is brutal as the dive bomb started on lap 1, turn 3. And my gosh, looking at the timing tower, I've got Snyder down 18, Corwin down 21, Chris Cook down 13, Trantham down 13. And you see it there as body panel suspension parts go flying. And my goodness, that was ugly. And probably there's an upside down car now. And that car is going to have to take a tow unless some friendly person knocks him back on his wheels. And oh my goodness, that is absolutely brutal. And we had a couple of pros down. Our pros are now running, aside from Poborji, are running 13, 14, and 23 as they were all kind of caught up in that. I'm going to say that happened in about P5 to P15. And you know what, folks? I'm not even going to ask Mike to go back and deconstruct that and find out who was responsible for that. You know who you were. And ouch, man. Don't be that guy. But there we go. That is a NASCAR-style pileup, the likes of which we have not seen so far this season in F4. And we're going to see... let's see here. We're kind of picking through. Yeah, this is after. So to celebrate surviving that pileup, you got a spinner there coming out of that turn 4. And this one's starting very, very rough, Kenny.
Yeah, I think looking at it, I think that car was upside down. I believe that was second place in the inner 2. Jason Trantham, it looks like he was getting carried back on by the tow truck, and that's going to take definitely a major hurt. I know they do have 2 drop weeks that are coming up, and he has used one of them already, it appears. But other than that, that's going to be a big points effect there, and obviously many cars have been affected by that, but you hate to see that for second place, even at the pro level. I mean, Mikowicz, your current points leader, he's definitely been set back. I would almost expect to see Poborji fighting to maybe come out of here with the point series lead.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like I said I wasn't going to do this, but it looks like that 322 car of Cook might have been the unguided missile that at least triggered part of that situation. And yeah, we had a couple cars taking it too. I think Trantham finally back underway, and my timing tower was showing Oladipo still on the flatbed. So his race has just gone horribly wrong for him. Meanwhile, up front, it is all 3 classes present on the podium right now. Is Poborji, P1 in class, Chris Wang, P1 in his class, P2 overall, and Jose Navas, again, who got the commentator's blessing there as the camera was on him for his final qualifying lap. He made it all the way up into P3. And a few people who managed to avoid that have made huge moves up. Suresh Kumar up 15 into P7. Ken Glasser up 15 into P5. And we've said it before, Kenan, and oftentimes in these F4 races, it is better to keep it clean than to be blindingly fast. And a lot of these drivers benefiting from it right now.
Yeah, definitely. I think some of the people that had enough time to kind of get their cars slowed down going into the turn four incident was certainly advantageous. They could safely get by after everybody washed off into the grass. But still see this is big for Pavorji. It's Chris Wang. He's got Jason Kocher right there. Jason Kocher, I believe, is our fourth place in points in the Inter One Series. So still keeping it tight. There's good racing, but Pavorji, I think he's kind of set sail for the gap he's created on eighth place Mikowitz.
Yeah, absolutely. Poborji has got to be loving what he's seeing in his rear view right now. He is got a 2.5-second gap behind to Chris Wang, the Inter 1 leader, and 7 more seconds on top of that. So 10 seconds back to P3. So Poborji, I hate to jinx him at this early stage. Looks like he could drive away with this one, with a possible exception. With all that kerfuffle at the beginning, traffic could become an issue earlier than we're accustomed to. But right now, Poborji sitting pretty and just needs to keep it clean, keep the car on the road, and keep his concentration up. When you see a little wiggle there, a nice catch by Suresh Makar. He got that car way sideways and managed to throw on a quick little bit of oppo and keep it pointed down the track.
Yeah, Suresh Kumar, he is driving like a wild man right now. He gained almost 3 or 4 positions, it seems like, over the last lap, and I don't think he's wanting to lose anything. He managed to break the top 10. He was up to 9th here on this lap. He fell back to 10th now, right behind Tyrone De Silva, but he is definitely not giving up on trying to put together a decent run, even with the first lap event.
Yeah, and he wants to hang on to that. He's going to have his work cut out for him. We're only 6 minutes in, and whenever there's an incident like that, like I said, there is damage is off. So all those cars that weren't upside down anyway were able to resume. So Suresh Makar and others are going to have drivers behind with more pace. So he's going to be driving in his rearview mirror for a lot of this one. But for right now, plus 11 running in P11. And so far, if he could freeze frame this one, he'd probably be pretty happy with that result. But he's got a lot of work to do to hang on to that position.
Yes, he does. I think the way everything's slowly starting to fizzle out, a lot of your best races, you see a car go off left there, is a little bit in the middle, and there goes Church Kamar, a little heavy on the pedal out of the corner, and that's going to cost him a lot of time coming out of turn 4. Just a little too much gas. You could see the car was yawed out a little bit, and looks like he will be able to keep that car going underway without anything too major, but definitely another setback. He's falling back to 22nd now.
Oh my goodness. And Suresh Kumar, camera shy there, combined with the commentator's jinx, and he is all the way back down to P22 where he qualified. So he went from up about 12 to now he's kind of back to 0. And you see that car kind of over rotating. Suresh Kumar kind of slow to catch it there. And these F-4 cars, and like a lot of mid-engine cars, will kind of go into a slow motion over rotation and kind of lull you that everything's fine. But the low polar moment of inertia, there's some physics where you can look that up. Slow motion rotation will just accelerate until there's no way to catch it, and you saw it there. And my goodness, what a camera jinx on Suresh Makar. We were on him a little bit too long, and now he's all the way back down into P22.
What's there? He's got some lap traffic right in front of him. I think maybe actually running a little faster than him at the moment, but he's having a pretty good run right now, sitting 6th, and we'll just have to see whether he can stay true to it. It looks like he's running a pretty smooth, comfortable line. Don't see him pushing it too hard here. I think he's found a nice place to sit, and he's kind of riding.
Yeah, taking a look at Ken Glasser right now in that 41 car. He's one of the beneficiaries of that early kerfuffle, and he has managed to hang on to his games there. He's up 13, running in P7, running P3 in class, and so far so good for him. He's hanging on. He's getting pressure from behind from Velasco, but the nearest competitor in his own class behind him about 4 seconds. So things looking good for him. Oh my goodness. And is that a replay or is that live? Samudio there just getting absolutely creamed, and he watched that car magically repair itself, and now he's blinking. and that's not a good sign. And he may have jumped to the pits after that incident. And my goodness, that was certainly interesting. And what a great shot of those cars hauling the mail through turn one. And that was a thrilling spot right there. We are absolutely on the ragged edge, using every square inch of the track, using the curb on entry across the apex and on exit. One of the super fun moments that you have here at Phillip Island. Really a fantastic course.
Yeah, I just really hated seeing that happen to Rudy Samudio. We were just getting ready to talk about him up 10 positions, having a great run. As soon as we get right to him, unfortunately, the worst happens, and that was just a really good race, and you hate to see it ending that way.
Oh my goodness! And look at Mikovich here, Kenan. He's thrown down a 1:29.599. Is about a half second faster than Pogorski right now, and he is clawing his way back up the grid. I think he might have had some involvement in that opening lap problem, and he's running P2 right now in Aliens, and he's got his eyes ahead to Jason Kocher. He's got to close down about a 3-second gap, and he will be within reach of the overall podium here. So keep an eye on Mikovits, because he has lit the wick here, and maybe we'll ride along with him and see how the Alien handles this turn one. And it's going so fast right here, completely wound out in top gear, just a little lift, and get that car to turn in, and then set up and get moored up for this next section. And Phillip Island is such a thrilling track. If you don't own it, shame on you. Go buy it. It is an absolute hoot. It may be a little bit underused, but like I say, radicals get out here every now and then. If you open wheeler circuits, get out here, and it's an absolute blast of old school track, and I strongly encourage you to give it a try.
At least twice a year throughout the years, and definitely one to have, and make sure you can do every week. And with him, Mikovits, I would think, strategy-wise, if Kocher maybe checks up a little bit, maybe he is holding kind of the same gap, but Kocher and Mikovits could be the pairing that could maybe make a run to get to Chris Lang in second and Pogorski in first. Looking at about a 10 to 12 second gap, it looks like, for third and fourth, and I'm not sure whether there will be enough time left with just under 8 minutes to go to get all the way to the front.
And was that Mikovits giving himself a huge flat spot right there? I saw a huge cloud of smoke coming up from one of his front tires. And hats off to Navis. Navis, an inner two driver running in P5 overall and hanging right with Mikovits. Look at that gap. You see the slipstream going to work, dropping under 0.5 here as they approach turn one. So Navis putting on a hell of a drive here. Starting from a pretty strong final lap in qualifying, and he has kept that fire burning, Kenan, as he sits right now in P5, and his gap back to his competitor in class about 5 seconds, I would say. And we've got a little replay coming up here, and here is that tricky entry to turn 10, over the rise, car gets light, tough to get the brakes right, and Bujak there trying to trail brake it around turn 10, maybe a little too fast there on entry, and you see him loop it and get swamped there, probably lost 3 or 4 positions with that one small error. And so tough, Kenan, these 20-minute races, a little mistake right like that will just kind of end what you have going and end it in a hurry.
Yeah, it's definitely a momentum killer, especially when it happens so late in this race where you just know you don't have the time to really get anything back. At that point, you just want to try and keep the car safe and try and manage what finishing position you can get with where you are. That turn 10 dip, that right-hand dip, we've seen it take out a lot of different drivers today, and it really lightens up the car, whether it's a bottoming out effect, but it'll just let that rear end go right on around.
Yeah, it's wild, and it is scary to be behind the wheel going over that rise. It's a risk-reward thing. If you want to play it safe, you can lift or maybe brush the brakes a little bit there to get the car settled and planted as you go over that rise, but that's not the fastest way around. And if you want to move and you want to make stuff happen, you got to roll the dice right there, and very tough. You got to be very precise. And here is Vase now. Is Vase going to be able to sneak it inside a Glasser? And wanting to see some action here on the entry to turn one. Looks like he backed out of it a little. He's still right there with Glasser, but really wanted to see him stick it in there. I'm not sure we've seen any side-by-side action there since turn one. And, maybe it's not viable in these cars, but it seems like you should be able to get position and at least force the driver head into a bad line, but have a chance to set him up for the next corner.
Yeah, I think what Vade's thinking there, though, he sees two cars ahead of him that are also for position, so you don't want to make a silly move, create any rolling contact. I think he feels confident. He's got a little more speed than King Glasser right here with the way the tires have worked out. That you don't want to make any enemies or make any mistakes and try and keep it going. I think they're both catching a couple cars up front.
Yeah, and Vay's all over Glasser. He's got about 3/10 of pace on him right now, and that battle there is for P12 overall. That's where Glasser sits now, but that is P5 and inner two. So both of these cars trying to push their way up into podium position. About 5 minutes left here, and here is some side-by-side action. That is Corwin, and is that Corwin on the inside or out? Corwin and De Silva, and there is some side-by-side action for you coming onto the main straight, and we'll see what happens with those two coming here into turn one. Mike might be feeding me here what I've been wanting, and that is a contested entry side by side into turn one. And there it is. De Silva is going to have the inside. Oh, nice. And they hang together still, still side by side into turn two, and a very tough spot right here. A little bit off camber and a little bit of a rise there. Still side by side, heading down into turn three, and it looks like De Silva is finally going to fall behind as we head into this hard braking zone right here, and then a little divey, nice. And Corwin manages to get it stuck through, and a great fight between those two. And I'll tell you what, folks, night after night that we cover these races, there's fantastic fights like that and fantastic driving from the top to bottom of this field. We do our best to show it all to you. We may not be successful 100% of the time, but and Corwin with a little dive. Oh my goodness! And Corwin, we were just talking about not wanting to treat your fellow competitors unkindly, and that may qualify as Corwin takes the big dive, drags the wheel, and bang. It probably should leave space on that exit, and stewards may take a dim view of that one. Aggressive move by Corwin, and that cost De Silva as he's punted off into the grass.
Yeah, that was really some excellent racing all the way up until that turn 10, which it's been repeated over and over throughout the broadcast. That is where the hard braking is, and Corwin wasn't the only one to lock it up there. You did see De Silva have some lockup too, so both drivers entering that corner very hard, and unfortunately at the meeting of the minds, only one can come out.
Yeah, and looks like De Silva still hanging in about a 1.8 second gap, but time running out, so he may not be able to close down that gap and try to get that position back. But yeah, some great dicing between those two. Maybe a little bit of a dive there, but if you see that daylight, you see an opportunity, you roll the dice and try to stick it in there. Certainly nothing malicious by Corwin there, just overcooked that entry just a touch, which is so easy to do in turn 10. Take a look at Aaron Van Wagner right now, and sitting good in P2 and inner two and P10 overall. And Van Wagner, another driver who may have benefited from that early kerfuffle. He's moved up 3 positions now, looking forward at Snyder. Snyder not in his class, and Snyder is going to get past anyway, even though it doesn't really matter to Van Wagner. His next competitor looks like is about 2 seconds up the track. That's Novice in P5.
But coming out of the final 2 laps, there's no reason to think 1 or 2 good laps couldn't put you right behind the car in front. There, it looks like that Bujak, off and to spin with the hard contacts. Don't know.
Bujak bad to worse there. Does a little lawn mowing, gets back on the track with the grass on his tires and unable to get him to hook up, loops it and gets punted there again. So Bujak getting banged around there and not looking good for him. We're taking a look at Novice now. That's Corwin behind, not in his class. He has 3 cars between him. Well, now 2. Actually, looks like Van Wagner just got by Snyder, who's listed on the timing as out. I don't know what happened to Snyder. He might have stuffed it or might have had a disconnect. Um, Mike is going to show you that now. And here is Snyder. And oh, yeah, he's turned there. Interesting. So he might have been turned from behind there and just hit the escape and bailed. But too, too, too bad for him, as you see Snyder, excuse me, falling down the timing tower. And I guess that will be it for him. Meanwhile, up front, not much attention paid to Dinesh Pawarji. He was getting a nice track day here until the Bailanino is in 6-second gap behind and has been able to keep it clean and has not encountered a back marker yet. I don't believe this is going to be the first back marker that he's come up on. So it seemed like traffic could play a role in this for him and maybe push him back into his competitors behind like Wang and Kocher. But that is not the case. Pawarji cruising right now. And just has a couple more turns to make and navigate that turn 10 one more time and come around on the front straight. And he is going to have this one in the bag. And look at that interval, 5 seconds behind and 10 more behind the Kocher. And that is Pawarji racking up his second win in as many weeks. And you got to wonder what is up with Stephen Case. Pawarji not getting any pressure really from anybody in this race, thanks in part to his fellow aliens not qualifying that well, thanks in part to that kerfuffle at the beginning. But there it is. There's Dinesh taking the checker by a mile. And kudos for him for being able to stay awake through that one. It was an absolute track day. There is Wang coming across to take your inner one flag. And before too much longer, we're going to say Jose Navas roll across. There's Kocher coming across in P2 to round out your podium. P3 overall, P2 in class. And here come Mikovits and Velasco, Corwin and De Silva. And there is Navas. And my goodness, what a drive by him. Managed to avoid contact, avoid the mess, and really did a great job holding position, Ken.
Yeah, Navas, that's one in his class. And he's one of the guys you'd see every week when we're out here at the track. He's on the track one of the most out of anybody. He's always sure the next one to get better. And today was the day we kind of got to see all that hard work finally pay off for him. That was it.
Yeah, good to see for somebody putting in the time. And he may not be, he may find himself in a different class next season if he chooses to stick around, because that was absolutely dominant by him. And looks like nearly everybody has taken the checker here. So we're going to have the final results for you here momentarily. But my goodness, no shortage of action here. A little bit unfortunate, that first lap crash. Maybe surprisingly, we haven't seen a lot of that in these F4 races, but we certainly saw one there. I'm going to say that probably 2/3 of the field took damage in that one, completely jumbled the field and threw a bunch of cars way down. And I think Oladipo ended up just throwing in the towel after that. Didn't even want to continue. So there are, let's see, that looks like the qualifying results. Mike, maybe flip that over. And there we go. There are the race results. Nothing changed at the top. Pawarji takes it from pole. And Chris Wang will be P1 in inner one and P2 overall, followed by Kocher. Kalen Mikovits will be P2 in alien, followed by Velasco, P5 overall, P3 in alien. Then Corwin will round out your inter one podium, sitting at P6. Then De Silva, you saw Corwin and De Silva banging wheels. Maybe one of them will come in and talk to us about that incident. And then is Jose Navas, who we already spoke about, sitting in P8. That is a win for him in inner two, followed by Van Wagner and Vase finishing up the podium in inner two and finishing up the top 10. Then it's going to be Meyer, Glasser, Posada, Bujak, Chris Cook, who I think was a magic bullet there in turn 3 on lap 1, and he's all the way down in P15, followed by Day, Hun, and Embriette Hyde in P18. And we'll scroll that over. It is Duvall from Swanbeck, Brashear, Jason Trantham in P22, Samudio, Justin Snyder, another Inter 2 guy who 2 laps down must have taken a tow. He might have been one of our upside down cars. Hagen as well, 2 laps down. Then Suresh Kumar, we jinxed him right off the track, and Oladipo, of course. I did so well. Oladipo took a tow, maybe out of frustration early on, and didn't complete a lap. So that is your final results. And my goodness, Kenan, what did you think of that one? I'm gonna take a look out in the interview room, see who we've got waiting, and you can share your thoughts about that race.
Yeah, well, I think we were treated to quite the race we kind of expected to. Always would have liked to have seen a little better race up front, maybe seen a little bit of a closer race there. But given the first lap lows of pretty much the whole field, whether they were involved or had to slow down to avoid, it really put Paborgi in a position to just run away with the race if he maintained. So we were definitely treated with some really good racing. I thought the De Silva Corwin race, that was just really great side-by-side racing. You know, you hated to see that come down to a wheel-to-wheel contacts, but I think overall this was a really good race, probably one of the best one we've seen from this entire group, and a lot of really good racing, not just split between the classes either. We had a lot of different mixed classes racing with each other, which I think is always good because you want to see the bottom kind of rise up to catching up to the top a little bit.
Yeah, too right. And as we're seeing a slow motion replay of the start, let's have a moment of silence for lap 1. This is where things go south, and they go south in a hurry. This high-speed entry down into turn 3, and like I said, we're not going to do an autopsy on this, but we'll slow it down a little for you, and you can draw your own conclusions. But oh my goodness, what a mess! And yeah, that was your start. That was lap 1. On cold tires in a 20-minute sprint. So yes, you got to make stuff happen early if you don't qualify well, but maybe a couple of drivers a little bit too ambitious there into turn 3. We do have some interviewees waiting here. Looks like we've got Aaron Van Wagner in here. Let's see. Yeah, let's go ahead and bring him in. And Aaron Van Wagner, welcome to the commentary booth, and congratulations on the podium. You pulled a P2 out of this one in class, finished in the top 10 and moved up 4 positions from your qualifying position. So I'm imagining that some of those gains were made possible by that ruckus at the beginning of the race. So how was that from your seat?
Yeah, I was just behind it, and pretty common going into that turn 4 that you see a lot of smoke in the air, a lot of brakes blocking up. But I could tell as I got a little bit closer that this was going to be a little more than just a couple people's brakes locking up. So yeah, got around it, kind of pulled off to the right. I did get spun around a little bit, but got my way out. And then as I was accelerating into turn 5, realized that I had my pit limiter speed on in the melee. I'd hit the button somehow. So cars were passing me by before I figured that out. But yeah, just kind of kept my head down and stuck in it, and got lucky with a few other incidents in front of me, but was just trying to click out as consistent times as possible and getting into the draft as much as possible, which this track is really, really beneficial if you can get into somebody's draft, and yeah, pulled out a P2. I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, congratulations on that. And definitely go back and watch the broadcast, because our brilliant producer, Mike, as you were talking about that, was showing your in-car in slow motion as all that was happening. So absolutely perfect. You're going to love watching it. So make sure that you watch that. And unfortunately, it also showed you getting swamped when you had your pit limiter on. But, yeah. But still a good result. Is this your first top 10 finish this year?
This year, I think it's my second top 10 and my first podium. But yeah, I had a really brutal start of the year, so glad to kind of pick up some scraps where I can, and hopefully toss those 2 away. And with the two throwaway races, I kind of have to be on my game from here on out. So so far so good. Just got to keep it up for several more weeks. But man, Phillip Island is my new favorite track. Super fun, super rowdy, and tonight delivered more than I thought.
Oh, absolutely. And it is an absolutely awesome track. And I said it earlier in the broadcast. If you do not own Phillip Island, shame on you. Go
Yeah.
download it because it is absolutely epic. And especially with cars like this with a little bit of downforce mechanical grip to play around on these sweepers. And great job, Aaron. Definitely. And like I said, definitely watch the broadcast. Mike absolutely nailed allowing you to narrate your own start there. That was awesome. Congrats on the P2 and congrats and good luck on the season going forward. And as we wrap up, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to?
Yeah, I just want to thank Jason for putting all this together. This has been such a fun thing on my weeknights, bring a little joy to my evenings and maybe a little anger too. But great, meeting all these guys, even though I'm down here in SoCal. And this has been great. I really, really enjoy doing this. And if anybody has the opportunity, I think they should consider joining the SRG driving group. It's awesome.
All right, fantastic. Congrats again, Aaron. Thanks for coming by and chatting with us, and we will see you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, and next in with us, we have Adam Duvall, and looks like Adam managed to pull off a top 10 in Inter 2. He's P19 overall, and actually had a pretty good charge through the field, managed to move up 5 positions. So Adam, a little bit messy at the beginning, and I'm going to ask the same question to everybody. Where were you when all that madness happened on lap 1?
I snuck through the first incident and then barely through the second one later on lap 1. And then I kind of messed it up all on my own, getting a little too wide into, I think it was 3. And then I was pretty much at the back of the pack trying to just play catch up, and hopefully other people crashed out and I could pick those spots up.
Yeah, and we're actually, oh my goodness, look at you thread the needle. So as you're talking, our producer Mike is showing your in-car going through that turn 4 incident in slow motion. So you're getting to narrate what is being shown on the screen. So definitely watch the broadcast later. You'll get a kick out of that. Sure. So how are these, it's kind of interesting to me that this series is following kind of the Asia Pacific F4 tour. So what are your thoughts about this schedule and heavy usage of these Australian and Japanese tracks? How's that treating you?
I'm not too familiar with most of these, maybe half on the schedule, so I have to learn a bunch. And then a lot of these are like real tight and kind of like phone booth boxing match type of thing. Coming into today, I knew this wasn't a track that really I'm typically good at. I did a bunch of practice. It ended up paying off okay. But yeah, I'm not really a fan of all these real tight tracks, especially when we got 40 or 38 plus cars,
Yeah, well, I think it's going to maybe have a little bit more room to run as the season continues. But as we wrap up, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to today?
Just every race I do from now on is for my buddy Billy. Dedication to one of the best dudes I could ever know.
All right, fair enough. And Adam, thank you so much for coming by, and we will see you next week.
Cheers.
All right, and that was Adam Duvall. And last and certainly not least, Jason Kocher, who managed to somehow emerge from the smoldering wreckage in turn 4, ended up on the podium, P3 overall and P2 in class. And I'm going to be a broken record here, Jason. What was it looking like from your seat when that mayhem unfolded on lap 1?
Yeah, hey guys, how you doing? I was up towards the front. I'm just getting the replay going here. I mean, there's a car that had made contact and missed the brake point behind me and came in through the air. I mean, as league admin, I'm very cognizant of my words right now. That's not what the SRG racing leagues are all about. I use this to market to people out there, and I hope that those that are watching at home have seen a bunch of our races that are clean. This is the anomaly, but it's very disappointing as the admin to see that happen. Very, very rookie league, and the officials will be handing out cards like it's Valentine's Day. There's gonna be some review to be had after this one for sure.
Yeah, and you know what? We feel you, Jason. But in fairness, this season has been very, very clean. You've got a broad range of skills out here and some very tight, challenging tracks. So overall, the driving has been pretty good. And you're right, this was an anomaly, but yeah, quite a mess. And watching the replay, as you were talking about that, Mike had your cockpit view going, and it looked like you lost a ton of positions right there, and this was a recovery drive from you. So how were you able to get all the way back up into podium position after getting swamped out of that crash?
Yeah, fortunately, those in my class and in Inter Alien, I think, took worse of it off of that. Once I was able to get rolling, when I looked up, it was mostly Inter 2. And I don't know, for some reason, when I'm on the podium or on class or overall, there's usually some sort of carnage that has transpired. Throwback to Zolder last year when a couple of guys tangled up in front of me and a couple of other guys threw it off. I'm never going to have elite pace. But I've done a lot of endurance racing, and I'm trying to coach to carry that over into the sprint racing. You got to survive first. And there's this is a very it's fast, but it's also technical, and I really love this place. I think, I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg. Do you love a place because you go well there, or do you go well there because you love a place? But yeah, for me, it was just all about being consistent, being clean. That ended up being the only incidents that I had over the course of the race. A couple of laps in, I was wondering if everybody else was still running around out there. I was kind of on an island all by myself. And a mid 1 minute 30s, we're going to get it done to get me home by the quick math in my head. So yeah, it helps to like a place, it helps to stay alive. And yeah, there's it's just a lot of experience that kind of comes into it. After that, like I said, I'm never going to set world records, but I'm always going to be in and amongst it. So if, unfortunately for those ahead of me, if they catch misfortune, then I usually try to be in a position to capitalize. And that's what happened tonight.
Well, and I got to say, to your chicken and egg question, for myself anyway, if I really love a track, it motivates me to do better. And I feel better and get in a groove and have more fun. And fun leads to speed, especially in cars like this. So that's my answer to that anyway. But yeah, great recovery drive. You had a pile of cars ahead of you and still managed to get P2 in class and an overall podium. So very well done, Jason. And as we wrap up today, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to?
Yeah, you guys always. I mean, I really appreciate having Slow Motion Broadcasting as a part of the family here. Really looking forward to next season. We're expecting to have this F-4 class, the Inter 2 guys, be the premiere show on Tuesday night, and then the Inter Aliens and the Inter 1s will switch to Wednesday night, F3, which we're also hoping to have broadcast on Slow Motion Broadcasting. You guys do a great job, so we're looking forward to expanding there. And second shout out, if I may, to my business partner, Tyler Hagan. He's always there for me. He's covering the shop. He's fixing computers. I built the place, but keeping it running is a whole nother thing. He and Alex Velasco are my local IT guys that I scream help to when a computer freaks out or drops Windows or something. So this place only runs that smoothly because they're there to help me, and sincerely appreciate them. I tell them all the time, but this is just kind of on record when you get a chance to have an interview and a shout out, and appreciate people. So grateful for them and you guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably a good time to mention, folks, that Sim Racers Group is a brick and mortar facility on the east side of San Jose. So if you don't have a rig, but you want to give some of these cars a try and try out iRacing, roll over there and they will set you up in a pro quality rig and you can throw down some laps. 10 of these cars here tonight were people driving out of that facility. So super cool business model, and sounds like you guys are having fun down there, and we wish you the best of success, Jason.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
All right, we will see you next week. And that was Sim Racers Group, Jason Kocher. And my goodness, that was a wild one. And looking forward, what are we doing next week, Kenan? Looks like Mobility Resort Motegi. So we're going to leave the Australian continent and hop back over to Japan. And, upcoming on Slow Motion Broadcasting, we got a couple leagues on pause at the moment, but this event, Sim Racers Group Formula 4, will travel to Japan next Wednesday. So make sure you tune in for that. And in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to Slow Motion Broadcasting and hit that notification icon so you don't miss any of the action. Whew, my goodness, what a race today. And I am J.R. Gregory. On behalf of myself, my partner, Kenan Miller, our producer, Mike Braun, and everyone here at SMB, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are, and hang on. The weekend is coming.